You know, there is not a secret for anyone. We Cuban people are quite internationalist. Let's imagine that we are serving abroad in any international mission, like in Haiti or Pakistan, or any place where we are needed. My manager cannot say, well, he's not there, I will take the advantage, he's not here, I will remove him. When he comes back, find another place. Absolutely forbidden. In holidays, if I'm getting the holidays, I cannot be changed from my working place until I come back. During maternity leave, no matter if paid or not, you know that there is a process, there's a program for maternity leave in which they are paid. And when the woman does not have possibility to look after the baby until a certain period of time, she can be on maternity leave, although not paid.
They pay 1 year.
Exactly. 1 year is paid. After that, you cannot get the maternity leave, not paid, but anyway, your working place is granted. And when you come back, it is there. So, in any of the cases, you can be removed. Well, in micro brigade movement, maybe that is something which is very weird to you to know what micro brigade movement is. The brigadistas for the Southern Cross Brigade know, but if you want, I can also just explain just briefly for you to understand, because it's another commercial to our social system. This is a working place, this is a factory, and some of us are in need of housing. But perhaps I know that man is a good electrician, and he's a good architect, he's a carpenter, he's a bricklayer, and we remove those people from the main work, and we conform a brigade for the construction of housing facility for the factory. We built a whole building of 100 apartments, for instance. 80% of the apartments are to be distributed among the workers, no matter whether they were part of the movement or not, but they go to those who are really in need of housing, and the other 20% is for the state to grant housing possibility to those people that due to the labor they are doing, it is impossible for them to get rid of work, to be in the construction movement, like for instance a doctor, physician is more important in the hospital, just constructing the house. But his co-workers are building the house for that person. So while in the micro brigade movement you cannot be notified, or while in any other sort of facilities or possibilities granted by the Cuban government. Which are the alternative for employment? And listen to this. Employment on vacant workstation, either permanent or temporary, inside or outside the same entity organization, if the worker meets the necessary requirements. Maybe we don't need my friend anymore in this very place, but there is another sort of place within the same organization, we need him, so we do not remove him, we do not quit him, we just reallocate. You are not going to be working anymore in here, but in here, and it is exactly the same entity. That's what I say, it's not a change, it's a reordering of the labor forces to set those people where they are most necessary, regardless whether that's their will or not. Second, self-employment. And listen to this, I just underline, self-employment. People are saying privatization, that's not privatization. We are not going to privatize neither public services, nor water, nor education, or health. Nothing to do, which has to do with the achievement of the conquest of the revolution. Self-employment, because after this reorganization, this reform, 182 new possibilities for self-employment have been created. Something which, according to my personal viewpoint, also increases an incentive for the person. Let's imagine that you have abilities as a cobbler. Why is it not possible for you to start just a small workshop on which you can work in there, and also you will get the support, economically speaking, of the part of the state, so that you can buy the raw material, the tools and instruments you might need to use. In other ways, it's the opening to, as an incentive to put in mind, just to put into practice all those abilities the Cuban people have in their mind, as a bricklayer, as a cobbler, as a blacksmith, whatever. New possibilities so that you get self-employed. Something very important, distribution of land on lease. You know, Cuba is a very huge territory, not so huge as Australia, but it's a huge one. And there is plenty of land, we could say neglected land.
Yeah,
You're making fun of me.
As huge as Tasmania.
That's right. That's right. And there is a lot of land which has not been properly used, due to so many reasons. We are a really long island, but just not so wide. Rivers do not run from north to east, which is small area, so we don't have so many water resources and so on. Some other lands is what we call, I don't know what to call that in English, in Spanish, technical speaking, we call it barbecho, in which we make the land rest for a while so that they recover the nutrition, values and so on. In other words, so those land which are non-productive are being given on lease to all the people who want to make it produce. And don't forget, on lease they have to pay nothing for that. There is only one thing, you have to make it produce. So you apply, you need 15, 30 hectares of land you will be given, and the only commitment you have to make it produce. That production will meet the need of, in terms of food for the Cuban people, but also will meet your need in terms of money to your pocket. And something which is very important, we are an agricultural country. We need to make the land produce. And that's one of the premises. You make it produce. Otherwise, if you are not making it produce, I take it from you and give it to someone else which is really willing to make it produce. Another ways of non-state employment. What do I mean by other ways of non-state employment? Let's imagine that my friend Reynaldo has got a small mini restaurant in his house, what we call then Paladar, and I am need. He needs me there. I can be working with him. He's not going to be my boss. He's not going to be my manager. We are going to be co-workers, which is different. So that's not exploitation. And he has to grant my salary. He has to grant social security, whatever. And that's another way. So those are the basement of whatever we are doing at present. I say some examples. After you get notified that you are no longer needed there. Jonas, just an example. The worker agrees with the job offer and is permanently set up in the new work. So you get the salary of the new job according to the regulation for that working position you have been assigned. Gets all the benefit of the new workstation and social security aid. And the personal labor, so the personal labor file is transferred to the new place of labor. What do I mean? Let's imagine that we no longer need him in here. We reallocate, tell them, well, this is what we are going to offer you. You are no longer needed in here, but this is another possibility for you to work. You agree, you get all those benefits, and this entity is responsible of keeping all the records to the other place so that he gets in there, pension rates or, holidays, money accumulated, and so on. But the teachers, professors, technicians are preferably reallocated on working places similar to the ones they used to work. What does it mean? At this very moment, there are two incentives of two places we are really needing and labor on. And just a little pause. Sometimes people said we had unemployment in Cuba. I would like to say we have could be said sub-employment?
Underemployment.
Underemployment. You know why? Because sometimes now they say, well, I don't have a job to work. I don't have a place to work. Yes, there are places of work, but most of the Cuban people, really highly educated, university degree, they prefer to work in offices and so on. And some of them did not like to work in agriculture or construction or in all those sectors which are productivity sector or productive sector. So those are the things. Trying to send people to those places. But anyways, we have a very huge, group of elite people, so not elite, don't understand the word, highly cultured people like professors, teachers, technicians, engineers, that they will not be reallocated if not necessary. You are an engineer, you are a doctor, a physician, you will not be sent just working in the countryside, you're working in the field, even though we consider working in the field a very honor for any person because we are an agricultural country and that's the way. And for you to make clear that it's not that we'll say that it's not important, one of the principles of the Cuban pedagogy is that one of the link of study and work so that the children get to know from the very beginning the importance of planting and the respect for those humble people who are working in the countryside. So that's one of the principles. But for you to know, it is not fair that if the Cuban state has had a very big charge budget just educating people to be a physician, now we reallocate them in any other place in which he be not properly using his ability. So another example, the worker agreed with the new job and is temporarily set up in the new job. Temporarily because it is not a permanent work position. Earns the salary of the new job, keeps the link with the workstation coming from. The new workplace is responsible with keeping all the records for holiday and so and so and so. And the most important thing, I will make a little stop. I mean, the PowerPoint is bigger, but I'll make a little stop in here to explain something and just have time for just question and answer session that, according to my viewpoint, is more important. which are the weapons, I would say, the worker has in his hand just in case it was not properly applied. Let's imagine that my boss did not take into consideration the suggestion of the committee of experts and remove me from my work. First thing, I apply to the union. I go in all the union cells, there is a secretary which has to do with labor's affairs. And I go to the labor's affairs secretary and tell them I consider they were not fair with me. They are removing me. I'm an old man, 60 years old. I've been working in here for 28 years. It is not fair that at the end of my life I be affected economically speaking. So that person which represented me is compulsory for him, has the right, not the right, the obligation to represent me and to go to the manager and say, I think you are not properly working, just reconsider this decision of changing this person of working position. But let's imagine that the manager is so stubborn that he says, never mind, that's my decision. So there comes another possibility. In other working places, we have something which we call, I try to make them in a literal translation, grassroots organ of labor justice, something like that, which is a committee which works in all the working places, similar to the one I mentioned before, a committee of experts. One person represented the manager, the other represented the union, and another one which represents the ordinary workers. I mean, selected among the people. And it's a legal body. And so I applied to that group and says, I think that's not fair, I complain because of this. And they have the obligation to represent me, to deal with the manager, to say that he or she is not right and that I should be treated differently. That normally is a law. When that legal body says the final decision is a law. Or anyway, the manager and the worker have another steps just in case they disagree. They can appeal. They can appeal what we call is the your court, but different people's power court. So I can appeal, and there is a legal process with an attorney, with a jury, whatever thing, and finally they take the decision whether it was properly treated or not. So those are the steps the worker has when he or she considers he has not been properly applied this regulation and he has been removed from work. Final consideration is not a change. It's a reordering to better the economy of our country, looking for more efficiency and more productivity. Second conception, this is not a layoff. It's a reordering or reallocation of the people. And third conception, which is very important, it's a socialist way of just meeting things, because no matter what happens, no Cuban worker will be neglected. For sure, they will be properly treated. They continue having the same right as union members and everything. So that is the first part of my presentation. I guess you have got a very outlook concerning this issue. I'm ready to answer any question if you might have one. Just to answer this question, we have to go just, age of retirement and so on. Normally, in Cuba, we used to retire before women retired when they were the age of 55 and women 60. Now it changed a little bit, women 60 and women 65. Yes. But, men 65. Men 65, women? Yeah.
Oh, we men.
We men, that's what I said. I guess I'm a man, I'm not. We men.
Except for the female.
So I just use it so fast that people can understand. Women and we men. So just let me explain something. Let me explain something. So there is normally, for getting your retirement pension, they took out of the last 10 years, they get the 5 years with a higher salary. Among the last 10 years, they get the 5 years with a higher salary. They get the average of those 5 years, and that's the average salary you get of retirement per month.
So different to Australia where you've got an average wage level, not based on
And
your
of course,
income.
there are some other things, lady. There are some other things, not only which is your salary, but also an incentive for being permanently in the same level, for instance, for a teacher. So, if you, and also there are so many other things. Let's imagine that you have the age for retirement and you continue working because you were capable, you wanted to continue. As an incentive, you get another plus for being overworking after the age of retirement. Or also in the field of education, you have been in the same school, in the same subsystem of education. They want you to incentive, continue being there so that you get better relationship student-teacher, you get to know the family, the students, so it's an incentive. So the more you stay in the same working place, also you get a plus apart from your standard or average salary.
Questions? My God, you're so quiet. Did I scare you when I said no statement?
Ezekiel, nothing I've heard so far has been very radical at all. It's really minor administrative changes to the way labour is allocated. Now, in the Western countries, innovation and quality of development of what happens in the factories is regulated by who controls the credit. So say I want to start something in Cuba, like a better way to build houses or a better way to generate solar electricity. What is the nature of credit to allow people with intelligence and innovation to go forward?
This is a process which is starting at this very moment. It's totally new. It's been applied exactly in this moment. I'm just in Australia, although we have discussed it before. So I cannot just supply figures concerning that, but for sure there is an incentive of the part of the state with credits so that you can, you are talking about domestically speaking, right?
Yes.
So incentive for the people, money, you are getting credits just to start your small micro business, I would say. Right?
The other panel members, if you want to make a comment, please let me know. Down the back.
She was the...
Yep. I was just wondering, when we were over there a few
Sorry.
months ago.
Sorry, just a minute. I really appreciate something you said. In Western countries are radical changes. That's not the case of our country. And I also appreciate because someone, a friend of mine, when I was making this presentation in Perth before, I had read the word drastical change. He said, don't do it. Because people will make an interpretation that radical change is exactly what is happening in the Western country where they throw people to the street without any protection, right? So that's good for you to say. There are no radical changes in our country. But I mean, long process, social process to be carried out to the final achievement of these changes or reforms.
Yeah, when...
Can you the microphone?
Yeah.
Yeah, when we were in Cuba a few years ago, we went around the country staying in private homes, the ones that are approved, of course. And what many people had a lot of complaints in terms of the bureaucracy. There was always someone who was supervising, like the way they kept their books and so on, and even very minor infringements that could be accidental, like wrong dates or something like that, could result in them having to pay back a huge fine, which could
Yeah, all the complaints we normally Cuba, we complain for everything, that's true.
Yeah, but it would result like in a fine that could be a year's worth of what they earn. So very, very, very heavy penalties for what could have been just a minor infringement of bureaucratic processes. And I just wondered if you were looking at that at all to make things easier for people who are doing small businesses.
Yes. Yes, of course, whenever there is something which is really new, we have to learn on the way. And maybe sometimes people complain because they say there is a lot of bureaucracy, but it's absolutely necessary to carry out that organization. Because we have not got experience before in terms of private property or taxes or anything like that. So it's necessary because imagine, you know how the mind of the persons are. If you are not really controlled on how you are doing the thing properly, you can just change the view or the idea of how things are. Anyways, I'm not a traveler, but I've been abroad in so many other countries, and similar procedures are applied to those people with taxes and so on. So it's nothing new, as I said before. Anyways, in terms of what you said exactly about the people who have private houses for rental, it is necessary to have control, and I'll let you know why. There is no doubt that Cuba has been always harassed for harassment just placed on Cuba. And maybe people sometimes, okay, you always blame on the United States, the blockade, and the enemy, and so on. And we have to. We have to. Let's imagine that you are a foreigner living visiting our country, you are renting a private house. Something wrong happens while you are in that house. The owner of the house has not declared to immigration officers that you were there. Something wrong. What is the responsibility on the part of the Cuban state? With your government, with your embassy, if something happens in there and we didn't know what was going on with you. even no one, it's not only a question with the Cuban people, no human being can be completely controlled all the time. I understand. But sometimes it's absolutely necessary. Want to say something, Ray?
If I may. I just wanted to ask, what happens if you make a minor mistake and declare less money in your tax? What happens if you make that minor mistake here in Australia? So it's not that minor mistake when somebody forgets to write the date that somebody was in his house, because that probably shortens the period, and then he pays less taxes. So it's not, I mean, usually we identify ourselves with the people that we share our lives with, especially if they have treated us well. And we tend to say, well, in a naive way that, minor, forgetful, I think the date that somebody came, or the name of that somebody who came. It's not that we are hypochondriac, or that we believe that everybody's want to cause damage on us. But it's true that we've been harassed for 52 years. And we really want to know what is taking place and what is happening. And when people go to houses and we don't get the real names of those who are there or the time they were there are things we get out of our hands. And we really have to take care of ourselves. And it's true, it's bureaucracy. We have bureaucrats. We have bureaucracy. We want to get rid of bureaucracy, as everybody wants, but we are not perfect. But some things are not that minor, and some things are not so naive as to, these poor fellows being fined with a big fine, because we know that whatever fine they get, they can pay. That's what I would say.
This is very dialectical, I can say, because I agree with Ray and also with Ezequiel. But we have to say also that we have a lot of prohibition that have to finish, have to end. They have an explanation, historical explanation, but now they're obsolete and we have to change it. Maybe we have things that should be prohibited and are not prohibited. We have to make more flexible the economy, and we are working for that. What they say is true, and what I'm saying is also true. We have to change both. That's very, very important. We have bureaucracy at the same time, but it's different completely of the bureaucracy we used to see in the former socialist country, completely. There is not the distance between the leaders and the people. There is not. We are, the leaders are very near the people. And what is happening now is a demonstration of it. You shouldn't make comparisons in the same level with what happened before with the socialist country. And that's also very important. Something are prohibited that shouldn't be, and things that we are very elastic and flexible shouldn't be so flexible, because it's against the needs of the economy. That's what I think about it.
Thank you.
Just a concern for the future. What's happening in Cuba is, I can see there's a major reform in the labor force, the reallocation of workers from one place to another. From where I sit here, I can see that it looks like there was a bad planning in the production of the labor force in the past.
No.
And what is being done now to avoid, because you're gonna, as you said before, many people are engineers and highly qualified professionals. They don't want to go to the rural areas to work in the land. which means what's going to be done in the future to make sure that the professionals that are produced by the country are the right people to go to the work for the jobs that the country has. It's just a concern. It's
That's
not
good, that's good. That's
not
right.
no criticism.
No, but I really do like criticism.
Concern for the future.
So whenever you make criticism, it means you are really concerned about something, and that's very good. Something which really brings new ideas. I really appreciate that. First of all, I do not think, I'm completely sure it was not a failure on our planning. Don't forget the starting point. We should have a sense of the historical moment. The moment in which we're educating those people to be future, not elite people, as I said before, but I mean university degree people. We were really in need of those, highly educated society. Not only for Cuba, but also for providing to different parts of the world, as you will see later on. That's our main human source of income at this very moment, the human resources. But now, what is going to be done for the future? Continue exactly doing the same thing, but in a better way. At this very moment, in terms of education, all the Cuban student has exactly the same possibility they had before. Same possibility just to get up to the university, any career, any PhD, whatever. But we are being a little bit more stern because we consider that at this very moment, we have the intellectual society we needed at the time, and we need to continue constructing that hand labor society we need. Because a society is not only made of engineer, physician, and architect. We also need someone to clean in the street. We also need someone to plant vegetable gardens. And that is something you have been in Cuba. Those who have been in Cuba, you have seen how we are exploiting, we could say, or implementing, they could say, the production of green vegetable in the urban area. That's a new possibility. So, for sure, I don't consider it was a failure in the planning. I consider this is a step forward to correct and to better the society we had already built before.
Let's go on. Maybe we can have some contradiction. We are like this, right, Cuba?
That's right.
Yeah, 3 Cuba, 4 opinions.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I think that is not a question of planning. Absolutely no. It's a question of conception, a structural conception, in which in the past planning or central control was much more, insisted in than should be now. Now we are decentralizing. We have to have planning. We have to have line. We have to have strategy. But we have to promote initiative, to leave space enough of flexibility, and that's very important. But it's not a question of planning. Everything could not be planned. It's not a question that somebody like us studying the society and saying this and this and this and this. No, you have to have line. You have to have, of course, a bureaucracy. It is necessary. You have to have a strategy, but at the same time, you have to plan a sector that should work with initiative, with flexibility, and that's what we are doing now. Of course, it's not going to capitalism, it's completely different. We are not promoting consumerism, it's absolutely different. But what happened before is, and has a historical justification, and now this moment is completely different from 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, or for what happened during the special period. What we are doing is changing our conception on how it should work in this moment in order to be more efficient, to take into account social justice, but before going beyond the borders of efficiency, we have to base on social justice, but at the same time we have to be efficient. There should be a balance between both. If you are very efficient and use the law of value in order to order the society, then a lot of people would be unemployed. Polarization of the society that happened always in capitalism. Then there should be a balance. If you protect too much the people thinking that is social justice, then the people simply rest and do not work. Then we have to find the balance. And it's a challenge we have. It's a challenge we have. And we want to take the challenge because we think that socialism is the most just society nowadays.